I'm pleased to join Professor Talas of the World Meteorological Organization for this launch of United in Science 2020, a multi-agency compilation of the latest climate science. Professor Talas will walk through some of the details, but let me say a few words from the outset. This report is a catalogue of a climate crisis that is worsening by the hour. Yes, economies slowed down because of COVID-19, but the heating of our planet has not let up. As the report shows, greenhouse gas concentrations reached new record highs in 2020. The last time levels were this high was between 2.6 and 5.3 million years ago, in the Pliocene era, when there were trees at the South Pole and sea levels were some 20 meters higher. The 5-year period since the signing of the Paris Agreement on climate change will be the hottest on human record, with average global temperatures of 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And the report also rings the alarm that there is a significant and growing chance of temporarily reaching the 1.5 degrees threshold in the coming 5 years. Over the same period, the extent of Arctic and Antarctic sea ice has been below average, and sea level rise has been accelerating due to melting land-based ice. The latest data for Greenland alone shows an average loss of ice mass of 278 billion tons a year, more than 110 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. And this is Greenland alone. 110 million Olympic-sized swimming pools of lost ice in Greenland alone. Let's not forget that there is Antarctica. Let's not forget there are glaciers all over the world. Over the next 5 years, the Arctic is predicted to continue warming at over twice the overall global rate. Our world remains off track, far off track, to meet the objective of the Paris Agreement to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. If things would remain as they are, we would go up to 3 to 5 degrees above the pre-industrial level. As this report emphasizes, short-term lockdowns are no substitute for the sustained climate action we need to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. The consequences of our failure to get to grips with the climate emergency everywhere. Record heat waves, devastating wildfires, floods and droughts. And these challenges are only going to get worse. As this report emphasizes, because of past emissions, we are locked into further heating. There is no time to delay if we are to slow the trend and limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. Climate action is the only way to ensure a livable planet for these and future generations. Whether we are tackling a pandemic or the climate crisis, it is clear that we need science, solidarity, and decisive solutions. We have a choice: business as usual, leading to further calamity, or we can use the recovery from COVID-19 to provide a real opportunity to put the world on a sustainable path. That is why I have called for 6 climate-related actions to shape the recovery. First, as we spend huge amounts of money to recover from the coronavirus, we must deliver new jobs and businesses through a clean, green transition. Second, where taxpayers' money is used to rescue businesses, it needs to be tied to achieving green jobs and sustainable growth. Third, fiscal firepower must drive a shift from the grey to the green economy and make societies and people more resilient. Fourth, public funds should be used to invest in the future, not the past, and flow to sustainable sectors and projects that help the environment and the climate. And so, fossil fuel subsidies must end, polluters must pay for their pollution, and no new coal power plants should be built. It is already cheaper to build new renewable energy capacity than to continue operating 39% of the world's existing coal capacity. This share of uncompetitive coal power plants will rapidly increase to 60% in 2022. The coal business is going up in smoke. Fifth, climate risk and opportunities must be incorporated into the financial system as well as all aspects of public policy making and infrastructure. And lastly, we need to work together as an international community. These 6 principles constitute an important guide to recovering better together. As we work to tackle both the COVID-19 pandemic and the climate crisis, I urge leaders to heed the facts in this report, unite behind the science, and take urgent climate action. And I call on governments to prepare new ambitious national climate plans, the national determined contributions, in advance of COVID-26. That is how we will build a safer, more sustainable future. Well, first of all, it's important to notice that we have already 120 countries that have accepted carbon neutrality in 2050 and are establishing the plans to implement it. And that represents 25% of the emissions. So the big question, as you mentioned, are the big emitters. And the big emitters are the United States, China, the European Union, Japan, Russia, India. And I've been very actively engaged, both with the governments and the civil societies. I made recently conferences to a Chinese university, to an Indian university, aiming at convincing the big emitters, all of them, that it is absolutely crucial for them to commit to carbon neutrality in 2050 and to commit to a reduction of the emissions up to 2030 of 45%. Without the big emitters, all the efforts that are made will not be enough. It's important to notice that there has been a very important movement in the private sector, asset managers, banks, important multinational corporations, that there is a huge movement in the civil society, in cities, in states, also a very strong commitment of the youth. So all these reasons make me believe that the pressure over the governments of big emitters will sooner or later produce results, and that it will be possible to have a global commitment, and the national determined contributions change that will be presented up to the COP26 in Glasgow are the real opportunity to do so. I still hope that the global committers will also, the global emitters will also commit to carbon neutrality in 2050.